short remark. I read on Fox News that the government in Arizona is very upset. The Saudis bought a lot of land there, and apparently because of droughts, there are a lot of constraints on how much water could be used. So what they're doing is, I think they're creating feedstock and they're shipping it to Saudi Arabia. So maybe you said that they're planning to buy some land in Israel. Maybe they have a pattern like this around the world.
This I don't know.
This I know. The rest of it I don't know. Also, what do you think is the impact of the relationship with Dubai and these other places in the Abraham Accord?
Well,
what has come out of it so far?
It's very clear that there's economic profits to be made. What the corporations in the Gulf states need is capitalization for their companies and management for the companies, and they're getting that from Israel. So it's apples and oranges. Dubai, the United Arab Emirates, are not with the state of Israel, like Saudi Arabia is. So it doesn't affect it one way or the other.
David, what are your thoughts on...
Here? Let's see, can you pick up the... is this being recorded?
What are your thoughts on the Palestine Authority after Mahmoud Abbas either dies or is replaced?
Palestine Authority is run through the Fatah. Fatah is a full-scale war with Israel, against the Jews, and that war is going to continue. Abbas has managed to tame that war through economic deals that he's made. In the Arab world, that's known as bakshish, buying off your enemy. Around the world, in the Arab world, that's acceptable. Outside of the Arab world, bakshish is not acceptable. So the bakshish system will continue, as will the PLO war in Israel. Abbas has been amazing. He's been able to, I know from journalists and diplomats who have been in his presence, his first sentence is, well, that we have too much incitement against the Jews here. Disarms the people right away.
So you feel it will be more of the same?
Absolutely.
What about a potential civil war amongst the Arabs in Judea and Samaria?
The Arabs are going to their weapons turned against fellow Arabs all along. That will not change. Okay? That's the story. But the amazing thing is, of course, the ability of the PLO to manage the media, and they're running a whole PLO management crew to manage the media, trained by the U.S. government. They have manuals that they use. No, it's, George Orwell seems to have a presence in all this situation.
What positive things came out of the relationship with Saudi so far? I read that an Israeli gamer team, the computer gamer team, is flying to Saudi Arabia to participate in some activity.
There's no question about that profits have been accrued by Jews from Israel in relation to Saudi Arabia. We're supposed to be the land of profits with a PH, not with an F.
Yeah, it's not just all profit. If there are people are talking to each other, some positive things also come out of it.
Not necessarily.
Lack of alienation, etc.
Not necessarily. The diplomats over the years in the 20th century, there were just diplomats always talking to each other.
No, it's not the diplomats, it's the people.
Even business people. Doesn't matter.
Kids are going there to play computer games and competing, and I don't know what happens with sports and other scientific contexts. Those are positive things.
These are issues that have nothing to do with the war.
No, not everything. Actually, everything is connected in the world, more or less.
You can have sports going on, you can have economics going on, you can have games. That doesn't affect
As you know, I grew up in communist Hungary. And for example, we had also in the Soviet Union, there was no Western music, there were a couple of French films, but there were no American films for sure. So that creates a boundary that there is no contact with the other. The other is easy to be painted as the enemy. And the enemy is just a concept that's fabricated.
This is different.
No, we can't completely dismiss it.
The Arabs have a dual relationship with the Jews. On the one hand, they're saying that they're war with the Jews. On the other hand, doing business with them.
You think that the peace accord or whatever that was with Egypt didn't have any positive impact on the Egyptian people. Of course, they see Israelis, they land there. Some of them, I don't know if they come to Israel or not. So I think the world is not all bad and it's not all good. So you could say that it's weighed more to the bad.
Again, whereas tourism flourished between Israel and Egypt, hardly any tourism came from Egypt to Israel.
Yeah, but there's still the average person's perception of Jews and of Israel probably changed somewhat, okay? That has value. There are also some things which don't have value.
In a totalitarian society, it doesn't really matter what the relationship of the people is. People often say to me, oh, there's children being killed, and the Palestinian Authority and Fatah are involved in killing.
The Palestinians is a different story because they have total vested interest in what's happening here. But the Jordan, which is not the region, Jordan when King Hussein was there, probably I'm sure there was a lot of impact on the people itself. They saw that, for example, remember when a couple of high school girls from Bet Shemesh were killed on the border? My wife is a social worker, and in Bet Shemesh she was working. And she was there when Hussein came here, very humbly, went into these poor apartments, etc. I'm sure that has repercussions in Jordan also. So there are always something good and something bad. The question is, what is the proportion,
Again,
and what leads to what?
the fact that policeman was released.
It's another story.
That's the same story.
But they're all.
Policeman
No,
who murdered the
no.
seven
I'm trying to
girls.
say it's not a black issue and it's not a white issue.
The policeman who murdered the 7 girls in Beit Shemesh was released as a hero.
100% true. Do you think that the attitude of the average Jordanian didn't change at all from the time when the peace accord was signed? Not at all.
It doesn't matter what the relationship of the people are. We're talking about regimes. The regime is...
No, but the people are also important. The regime is one thing, but the people are also important. What they think.
Society, the regime is what counts.
Everything counts. For example, I guess the way I never went to Egypt or to Jordan, but my perception of Egypt changed as as an individual. I'm not in the government. I don't see it as an enemy state, and it's not a friendlier state, but something changed. You saw there probably something changed. Maybe it's minuscule, maybe it's not minuscule, maybe it's not big, maybe it's big. I don't know. But I think that one ought to also focus in on the positive movements. Also, you never know what it leads to, all these dynamics. That doesn't mean that things are good there, the relationships are good, but there are some also positive things, and hopefully the positive could be emphasized to lead to more
I
positive.
appreciate your opinion. I don't think it has a basis in reality. That's all.
No basis in reality. Okay. Then we disagree, which is fine. We're Jewish, we disagree.
When regimes are determining what's going on and not the people, that's what's important.
Actually, take a look at it. It's not exactly true. Not exactly. For example, here is the judicial review process, which is, I think the right is mishandling it, and the left is another story. But the people who are protesting have an impact. They're acting like a brake. It's difficult to move. They have tremendous economic damage. Okay, the people also count. It depends where. For example, where I grew up in Hungary, the people didn't count. It was a totalitarian regime. But if some from freedom, then the people also count. And the politicians take that into account. If there are free elections, they have to take that into account. It's more complicated. But you're right about the dangers. You're 100% right.
One of the things I want to mention on this newscast, we produced a movie, actually 12 movies, about the UNRWA. And this book here, A Roadblock to Peace, shows what the regimes are doing to keep people in the refugee camps under the false premise and the promise of the right of return. And the people aren't being asked, they're being told that's your only option, to go back to where they came from. And this statue of the entrance at the entrance to El Aida camp speaks for itself. That's a porthole and that's a key. That's what you have to be thinking of all the time. And it's been drummed in especially in the last 2 years, drummed into the children's consciousness that what you have to face now is a situation of your heritage. That your great grandparents or great grandparents, they were abused the grandmother was murdered and the grandmother was raped and the grandfather was murdered, and that's the basis of their new ideology. And the Nakba concept only started in 1998, not 1948. Very important. I thank you for coming this evening, and let's spread the word. You can get in touch with me through IsraelBehindTheNews.com, David Bedein, and that's our website. Our phone number, our contact information is on that, and those are how people can donate to our work. Thank you.